I didn't mean to stop that night. If anything, I'd trained myself not to. After you lose someone the way I did, you start believing that keeping your head down is the only way to keep breathing. You drive home, you do what you have to do, you don't get involved, you don't look too long at other people's pain because yours is already heavy enough. But the universe has a habit of putting a mirror in your path when you least expect it, and sometimes that mirror is a stranger in the rain holding a baby like the world just ended. I'm Owen Ryder. I live in a small Washington harbor town I'll call Driftwood Point, not the real name. It's one of those places where the sky sits low all winter, the air tastes like salt, and storms show up fast and stay mean. I work construction. Hard labor, long shifts, the kind of job where you come home too tired to even feel your own thoughts. That Tuesday I'd been on site for 14 hours. We poured concrete until dark, the foreman was in a mood, my back was screaming, and all I wanted was to get home to my 9-year-old son, Lucas, and crash. The rain was hammering my windshield so hard the wipers were just pretending to help. Lightning kept tearing open the clouds over the bay, turning the road white for split seconds. It was past 11 p.m. The kind of hour where nobody's outside unless something's wrong. That's why I noticed the bus shelter. I've passed that shelter 1,000 times. Usually empty. Sometimes a couple teenagers waiting for rides they're not sure will come. But this time there were two shapes huddled inside. At first I thought it was a couple. Then I saw the smaller one. A baby, wrapped in a blanket already soaked through. The woman holding him was bent over like she was trying to shield him with her whole body. I don't know what exactly made me break. Maybe it was the way her shoulders shook. Maybe it was the baby's cry, thin and exhausted, like someone who'd already used up all his strength. Or maybe it was my gut, the part of me that still remembers how it feels to have nowhere left to go. Either way, I pulled over before my head could talk me out of it. I sat there for half a breath, arguing with myself. Keep driving. You don't know her. You can't fix this. You've got a kid at home waiting on you. But then lightning flashed again and for a second I saw her face clearer through the rain-streaked glass. She wasn't just wet. She looked wrecked. Like she'd been carrying too much for too long and the storm was the final insult. I shut the truck door behind me and stepped into the rain. Cold hit me like a slap. By the time I reached the shelter my jacket was a sponge, boots filling with water. The woman looked up fast, startled, ready to bolt. She was young, early 30s maybe, hair stuck to her cheeks, scrubs under a thin hoodie. A nurse. Her eyes were the thing that stopped me. You can fake strength, you can fake manners, but you can't fake that raw, hollow panic in someone's eyes when they've run out of road. Hey, I said, keeping my voice calm. You okay? She nodded too fast, then shook her head, then forced the nod again like she couldn't decide what was safer. We're fine, she said, voice cracking on the lie. The baby whimpered weakly against her chest. You're not fine, I said. You're freezing out here. What's your name? She hesitated. Tessa. I'm Owen. Where are you headed, Tessa? You need a ride to the hospital. Police station. A friend's place. The word friend did something to her. Her mouth opened, closed, and her composure just collapsed. Not dramatic crying. Just that quiet breaking sound people make when they've held it together too long. I don't have anywhere to go, she whispered. 6 words, and I felt my chest tighten because I'd said those same words once in a parking lot behind a hospice center, thinking my life had ended because my wife wouldn't be walking out with me. I looked down at her baby. His cheeks were flushed from cold. His tiny hands were clenched into fists. What's his name? Micah. Okay, I said, nodding toward my truck. Let's get you both warm. Come with me. She blinked. You don't know me. I know you're a mom sitting in rain with a baby. That's enough. She stared at me like she was waiting for the catch. There wasn't one. Finally she stood on shaky legs. I took the diaper bag from her and held the door. She climbed in like someone stepping into a boat they aren't sure will hold. 10 minutes of silence passed while I drove. Her hands kept adjusting Micah's blanket even though it couldn't do much. She wouldn't look at me. I didn't push. When a person is that scared, you let them breathe. 20 minutes later I was unlocking my front door, waving her into my little rental. 2 bedrooms, cheap carpet, nothing special, but warm. I grabbed towels, handed her one, then laid another over Micah. Bathrooms down the hall, I said. Take your time. There are dry clothes in the basket. She hovered in the entryway, still clutching Micah like she might need to run. Thank you, she whispered. While she changed, I checked on Lucas. He was asleep on the couch, comic book still open on his chest because he'd waited up again. I smoothed his hair, felt that usual pinch of guilt, then went to put the kettle on. When Tessa came out, she was wearing one of my flannels, Micah wrapped tight in a fresh towel. She looked a shade less ghostly, but those eyes were still stormy. I pointed to the kitchen table. Sit. Drink something warm. She sat, careful, like she didn't trust her own body. Micah finally slept against her chest. I didn't ask questions at first. I just let the quiet do what quiet does. After a long moment she stared into her tea and started talking softly, almost like she was confessing to the cup instead of me. I was a nurse at Maple Shore Hospital, she said. 6 years. Single mom since Micah was born. His dad left when I told him I was pregnant. Didn't even want to see him. She said it flat, practiced. Like she'd repeated it to herself enough times that it stopped hurting, or maybe she just didn't have room left to hurt. 6 weeks ago, the hospital got bought out. New company. They did restructuring. Cut staff. 15 of us were let go. Her fingers trembled around the mug. They said it wasn't personal. Just numbers. Like people are numbers. She swallowed. I thought I'd find another job fast. Nursing's always needed. But the way it happened, word spreads. Clinics hear you were cut and assume you were the problem. She laughed once, bitter and quiet. I applied everywhere. No calls. Savings disappeared. Micah has asthma. His meds aren't cheap. Last week I couldn't pay rent. Landlord gave me until today. She paused, face tightening. I called shelters. Full. Called friends, most didn't answer. My parents are gone. No siblings. By afternoon my stuff was out on the sidewalk. Locks changed. I took what I could carry. His inhaler, my license, clothes. Everything else. I don't even know where it went. She looked up at me like she expected judgment. Like she expected me to tell her she'd failed. I felt my throat go tight. You're staying here, I said. She startled. No, I can't. I don't want charity. I shook my head. It's not charity. It's a roof and a futon. You and Micah will sleep in the spare room tonight. Tomorrow we figure out next steps. She stared at me. Why? She didn't say it rude. She said it like believing kindness was harder than believing pain. I exhaled, then told her the truth I almost never say out loud. 3 years ago, my wife died. Sudden aneurysm. No warning. Lucas was 6. One day she was here, next day I was signing papers in a room that smelled like bleach and pretending I knew how to breathe without her. Tessa's hand drifted across the table instinctively. I'm sorry, she whispered. I nodded. We sold our house to pay bills. I took the first job I could. Moved here. I spent a long time just operating. Not living. Wake up, get Lucas ready, work till I couldn't stand, pick him up, feed him, put him to bed. Repeat. I shut everybody out because I didn't want pity. Didn't want to explain. Didn't want to feel. My voice got rougher. Some nights I'd sit in the truck after work because going inside felt like walking into a place where my life used to be. Tessa listened like she knew the shape of that pain. When I saw you out there tonight, I said, I didn't see a stranger. I saw what we were back then. Desperate and cold and trying to keep a kid safe when the world doesn't care. Nobody stopped for us. They all drove past. Maybe helping you is the only way I can make what happened to us mean something. Tessa covered her face and cried. Quiet, shaking sobs that sounded like relief and grief mixing together. I slid tissues over and gave her space. People don't need you to fix their lives in that moment. They just need one safe place to fall apart without being punished for it. Morning came gray and gentle. Lucas padded into the living room half asleep and froze. Dad, why is there a baby here? Tessa sat up fast, embarrassed. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. You're fine, I said. Lucas, they're guests for a little while. Over breakfast, pancakes because that's my one move, I told Lucas a kid-friendly version. A mom and her baby needed help. My son listened hard, then said something that nearly broke me. Like when Mom died and it was just us. I swallowed and nodded. Yeah. Like that. Lucas looked at Tessa, then at Micah, and said matter-of-factly, then they can stay. We know what it's like. Tessa's eyes filled. She whispered, thank you, probably for the 100th time. Micah woke up halfway through breakfast and stared at Lucas like he was studying another planet. Lucas made a goofy face and Micah cracked a sleepy little smile. That sound, a baby smiling in my kitchen, was something my house hadn't held in years. Days turned into weeks. Not the Hollywood kind. The real kind. I went to work early. Tessa fed the kids, walked Lucas to school, then spent the day calling clinics and sending resumes. I'd come home to the smell of soup or the sound of cartoons and laughter. At first it felt strange. Then it started feeling like breathing again. After about a month she got a call from a clinic across town. Then an offer. She told me one night after the kids were asleep. I start Monday, she said, voice shaking. It pays decent. I should be able to save for an apartment soon. I smiled and said it was great. And it was. But something in my stomach sank because this house had stopped feeling like a waiting room. It felt like a home again. She watched my face. Unless, you don't want us to leave. I didn't plan to say it. It just came out. I don't want you to leave. Tessa stared, stunned. These last weeks. Lucas and I haven't felt this alive in years. She blinked, tears forming. Then we don't rush, she said quietly. I'll pay rent. We'll do it right. We didn't name what was growing between us. We were both too scared. Love after loss is like stepping on ice you've fallen through before. You move slow. You test every step. But the bond formed anyway, in the ordinary days. In the way she remembered Lucas's favorite cereal. In the way I learned Micah's sleepy whimper meant bottle. In the way Tessa and I started sitting on the porch with tea after bedtime, talking about work and the kids and everything we'd survived. There was a pull under it. We both felt it. We just didn't want to shatter what we'd built for the kids. A year later, on Micah's second birthday, we threw a tiny backyard party. Streamers, grocery cake, neighborhood kids running around soaked in drizzle. Lucas was chasing Micah with Bubbles, both laughing hard, and I stood watching them with a lump in my throat that wasn't grief for once. Tessa walked up beside me. They're good together, she said. Yeah, I whispered. They are. Silence stretched, safe and warm. Then she said so quietly I almost missed it. I don't want to be just friends anymore. My heart did a dumb little jump. I turned to her. I've been waiting for you to say that. She laughed through tears. I was scared. Me too. I kissed her gently, careful like we were relearning life. We told the kids a few months later in the most serious way possible. Lucas rolled his eyes and said, "We know, Dad. You guys are obvious." Micah clapped because he liked the energy. Dating while living together with 2 kids watching your every move is ridiculous, by the way. Date nights were porch talks after bedtime, hand-holding in the kitchen, quiet laughter in the hallway. But it worked. We went slow. We talked a lot. I panicked when she got sick with the flu and stayed in bed for 3 days. My mind went right back to losing someone. Tessa took my hand and said, "I'm not leaving. You don't have to armor up every time life gets scary." She was right. She had her own fears too. When money got tight she wanted to work extra shifts because she didn't want to feel dependent. We learned to meet in the middle. To be partners without proving anything. 2 years into dating, Lucas asked casually one night, "So when are you guys getting married?" Tessa almost dropped a plate. I froze. Then Lucas shrugged. "We're already a family." That night on the porch I asked, "Are we ready?" She didn't hesitate. "I think we have been. I just didn't want to push you." I stared at the yard, thinking about the storm that brought her here, about the silence that used to live in this house, about how she'd help me breathe again without asking for anything. "I'm sure," I said. "I've never been more sure." I proposed a month later in the backyard with the kids there because I didn't want any kind of future that wasn't all of us. I knelt, pulled out the ring, and said something simple like, "Let's make this official." Lucas cried immediately. Micah cheered because he thought it was a snack game. Tessa said yes through tears. The wedding was small and honest. Fall leaves everywhere. Lucas walked her down the aisle holding a tiny sign that said, "Welcome home." Micah wore a little suit and fell asleep during vows. We laughed. We cried. We promised to keep choosing each other when fear showed up. That night after everyone left and the kids were asleep in a heap of blankets, Tessa and I sat on the porch like we always did. She said, "Do you ever think about that night?" I nodded. "Every day." She looked at me, soft and steady. I'd given up, Owen. I was sitting in that shelter thinking maybe that was the end. Cold, alone, nothing left. Then you stopped. I pulled her closer. "You don't get it. That stop didn't just save you." She tilted her head. "It saved you too," I said. Lucas and I were ghosts. Surviving but not living. You walked in soaked to the bone and somehow brought life back with you. She rested her head on my shoulder. We saved each other. And that's the whole thing. Not a fairy tale. Not perfect timing. Just 2 people at their worst colliding by accident, choosing to help, choosing to stay, choosing to heal out loud instead of alone. Sometimes hope doesn't show up as a miracle in the sky. Sometimes hope is a tired single dad pulling over in the rain even when he doesn't feel strong enough to help anyone. Sometimes family isn't what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you build from broken pieces when you finally let somebody in. So I want to ask you, and I mean this. If you were in my shoes that night, would you have stopped? Or would you have driven past because your life already felt too heavy? And if you were Tessa, would you have trusted a stranger enough to accept help, or would pride have kept you in the rain? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them, and I know other people read them too. Maybe somebody out there is sitting in their own version of that shelter right now thinking they're out of options. Your words might be the thing that reminds them hope still exists. If this story hit you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that their worst night doesn't have to be their last chapter. Because sometimes the decision that saves somebody else is exactly the decision that saves you.